Hello, and welcome to Cooking with Todd. This is Todd. For today's video, I am making a spice mix for an Indian dish that I'm going to be making an upcoming video on. And that today is going to be Garam Masala. It's a Indian spice mix used in quite a bit of Indian food. So for this, you're going to need some whole cumin seeds. I just bought this because it was small. And I got this on Amazon, I do believe. You're going to need 2 teaspoons of coriander seed, 2 teaspoons of yellow mustard seeds, 2 teaspoons of whole peppercorns, 2 teaspoons of fenugreek seeds. I do believe I bought that on Amazon too. I'm not sure on that. Black cardamom pods. These I am for sure I got on Amazon. You're going to need some cinnamon. I just got these because they're flat. Well, close enough to being flat. But a good majority of them's flat. And on top of that, these would be easier to break into smaller flat pieces. So, and you can use as much of this as you like. For this, since I'm using so much of everything else, I might end up just using this whole piece right here, or some smaller ones, I'm not sure, or maybe like that piece, I don't know. You can just use as much as you would prefer on cinnamon. You're also going to need some dried amateur, optional. You don't need to use this. My chana masala calls for it, so I'm going to go ahead and just throw a couple of these in with my spices that I'm going to grind. And you're also going to need some turmeric. I don't have any like ground powdered turmeric, whatever, so I just have these. So I'm going to take one of these. If I open this bag up, I'll show you. Now I'm just going to take one of these fingers right here. Kind of looks like dried ginger, or a ginger root. I'm just going to take one of these, and I'm just going to grind it up in my spice grinder. Now these two things here are definitely optional. The turmeric just kind of gives color to the chana masala, so that's why I'm adding it to the garam masala. It's just for color, really. Doesn't really add any taste benefits. So, and I found without this, the chana masala kind of looks drab. It doesn't really have much color. This just helps bring that out. Okay, so to get started, I have a 10-inch skillet on my stove. I am going to go ahead and change my camera angle so you can see my 10-inch pan. Okay, so I got my camera angle switched over, and I'm going to go ahead and start adding in my seeds here. I have to open this up, and I do believe that was 4 teaspoons of this, so I'm going to turn the heat down on this, and I'm going to wait a minute. While I'm waiting for that to cool off a little bit, I'm going to explain why I'm using some whole spices instead of just using everything powdered or pre-ground, whatever you want to say. The only reason I'm using them whole is because whole spices last indefinitely, pretty much. If you get it ground and in powder form already, it's got maybe a year at most after opened. You might be lucky to get 2 years out of it once it's opened. The only reason the powder doesn't, or ground stuff doesn't last as long, is because once it's been ground up, the aromatics just kind of evaporate, if you'd want to call it that. They just disintegrate. So that's why I like to use whole spices and make my seasoning mixes as much as possible from whole spices. So I'm going to say that's good enough. I'm going to go ahead and measure in my 4 teaspoons of my cumin seed. No, don't really got to be precise. This is a little on the heaping side. I'm just kind of shaking it to level it off. It's 2, 3, and 4. Going to go ahead and add in the coriander. That's 2 teaspoons of that. 2 teaspoons of mustard seed. The 2 teaspoons of black peppercorns. And also right now I'm going to go ahead and just do this. I don't want anything sitting really too long in one spot. And I gotta open up my cardamom. I really wish this came with a reclosable package, but I have some extra spice jars, so I'll use those. And I'm going to throw in, my recipe says 4, but I'm going to do 5. And I'll do 6. And I'm just going to toast these like this until everything becomes really fragrant. So about a minute. I'm going to raise my heat back up to a medium-high heat to bring it back up. Then I'm going to drop my heat back down to a medium after it comes up to temp a little bit. I'm also going to throw in a cinnamon stick, preferably ones smaller than this. If I can break this, I will use this, which that was easier than I was expecting. I will throw this whole cinnamon stick right there in. And that should be enough cinnamon. Alright, so I'm going to toast these. I'm going to say for about a minute or 2. You can pretty much tell when it's ready, when it becomes very fragrant. I think I've said that already. Turn that back down. My nose is kind of stuffy today, and I don't know why. As a result, I really can't smell anything. I am seeing some smoke coming out of this, so I'm going to call this good. And some of the cumin or something's starting to pop like popcorn, so I'm going to shut this off, and now I can smell it being fragrant. So I'm going to shut that off. I'm going to sit that back there on the back burner, or I'll just leave it on the front here. Kind of let it go a little further. And I'm just going to let this pan come back down to room temperature. That can take, I don't know, anywhere from 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30. And I'm going to just keep moving this. And I'm not sure if the camera's picking this up, but on the cumin, you can see, let's see if I can, like on the ground cumin, let's see if I can get this to focus. And that's probably going to be hot. But the ground cumin, some of them are darker. Those ones have been toasted right around where I would like them to be. Some of the other stuff is not quite to that point yet. I think what's popping is the mustard. I don't know. But this is pretty much not going to be like toasting anymore, I don't believe at this time. So I'm going to just let this sit here, come down temp, and I just realized that was not focused at all. There we go. So I was getting all my spices put away, and I realized I did not add in my fenugreek, so I just added that in. And I'm gonna just toss this a little bit, mix it up. There still should be enough residual heat left in this, but I'm going to go ahead and just turn that on high for about 30 seconds. Kind of get this toasting again. Don't really want to overdo everything else, but my nose is stuffed, like I've said, and this is really fragrant. It smells amazing. I'm just going to stir that up a little bit like that. Okay, so this is done. I went ahead and took a couple of them amchur pieces out of that and threw them in there just to kind of warm up a little bit, I guess. I don't know why. I'm going to take all of this and set it off to the side here. Those are going to be ground separately because I don't think it would all fit in here. I'm going to also take them black cardamom pods, put those off to the side too. And I'm only going to grind this right here in one go. That's going to be a second, and I'm thinking of doing those in a third. So this pan is still warm, but I can pick it up like this, no problem. So that's good enough. I'm going to go ahead and just add this into my spice grinder container here. And you probably can't see anything, but I'm just dumping it in. I'm going to pause this and everything, and I will bring you back. Okay, so I got those into here, and I went ahead and just put those back into there. I'm going to put this lid on. I put my spice grinder back behind me, and I'm going to go ahead and just grind this up, and I'll bring you back to show you what you're looking for in consistency with that. Okay, so I got my camera zoomed in really close. And take this lid off, and the spices are still kind of warm. And I'm going to bring this in a little closer. So that's what I'm going for in consistency. It's like really fine. And this only took about 45 seconds in my spice grinder. And it smells amazing. So I'm going to grab my other spice grinder part. I got a feeling that's going to be much louder. This is my first time using this since I got it last week, and I love this already. I will get that done and bring you back. Okay, so here is my first spice grind here. I'm going to get that lid off. That looks really good. I already showed you. Here's my second one. And if you can see, it's pretty well ground up. Now there's still, I have a feeling, some smaller pieces in that I don't want. So I'm going to combine these two back together. I probably should have just dumped this out and put that in there instead of dirtying those two up, but oh well. I did end up having to, that's the wrong one. Let me zoom this back out. There we go. So this one here has the cinnamon and amchur in it, and the cardamom. I did end up having to keep the plastic lid down with some invisible tape there, just to keep the lid from flying off, because these lids don't really stay on there that well. I'm going to dump this one here, at least try to dump it in there without spilling it everywhere. Just tap that a couple times, get as much of it off the bottom. Alright, so that's about as good as I'm going to get out of that, which that's fine. It's not really going to hurt me any. I'm going to add this lid here back on, give this a whirl just to mix everything up, try and get the last of the bits broken up, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back, and I have this spice mixture here. I'm going to give the lid a couple taps, and this jar here is heated up quite a bit just from the friction of everything inside moving around. I'm going to take that lid off, and I'm going to put it into a bigger bowl here. And as you can see, quite a bit stuck to the bottom. Again, I don't know what that is. It might be like the cinnamon and the amchur in there. But I just went ahead and let this go for about a minute additional in there. I'm gonna get that out of there. And that's mixed up pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and take these 2 roots here. And I got a feeling that this ain't going to really go that well. So I'm going to probably use my coffee grinder part of this. Throw those in there. I'm going to use this lid even though it don't really fit. And I'm going to put that lid on there with some tape so it doesn't fly off while it's being used. That piece ain't sticking. So I'm just going to bring you back. I don't think you need to watch me do this part. Okay, so I'm back. I didn't end up using it all. I only ended up using about half of one of those, but this is what I got from that. I got about, I'm going to say, a teaspoon. I got about a teaspoon and a quarter, maybe a teaspoon and a half. I'm going to dump that in there. And I am making I think this is considered 4 batches. Not sure. So 4 batches, I would need 2 teaspoons of this turmeric. I'm not going to bother with the extra. I'm going to just give that a quick mix. Try and break everything up so everything's incorporated better. And I'm going to switch over to a whisk. And I'll just make everything a little easier, I think. I'm trying to use a spoon if I can keep everything in the bowl. But I think everything's pretty well incorporated at this point. So I'm going to set that off to the side. And I have a empty spice jar here. I'm going to just put that back in the bowl. Grab my funnel that I have here. Get that knife out of the way. And I'm going to try to dump this into the funnel. And I'm going to just fill this jar. And I already know it's not going to take all of this. I'm just going to do this. And since this is pretty much everything, I'm just going to wrap this video up right here. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and make sure to smash that like button. If you enjoy the content I'm putting out, make sure to smash that subscribe button. And as always, thank you for coming along with me on this journey of mine.